Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Guns of Navarone, RMP, Troy Shuka, Bose Nail, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dicker Skeptic, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, theflatearthchannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, and David Wayne Foster. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now, before I hand over to whoever is in Google and Discord so you can enjoy their conversation, I'm going to also say there's going to be a link to get £50 back for changing your energy supplier to Octopus Energy. So that also helps me out as it credits me with the same amount should you change your provider. So there'll also be a link moving forward in the info box below this video. Now we'll actually hand over to Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Space Pope.
That's I'm lost.
You gonna fill us in? That red man.
Yeah, that's Red Man. I couldn't figure out what the word he was using. Bats, B-A-T-S, or what?
Vanished, so I don't know what to say.
He'll come back. His technical issues.
Indeed.
What I was saying was Space Pope, Baps. He come on your show a couple times, do a presentation. It was too funny this morning. He got offended. Somebody called him a globe head because the way he was acting.
I don't recognize the channel name.
You say Babs?
Yes.
Oh, Babs. I thought you said Bats.
I thought he said Babs. I could hear
No.
it. You've confused me, 10th man.
No, I couldn't make out the B-A-B-S. I thought it was B-A-T-S, and I'm trying to figure out who this was. But Babs, yeah. What about Babs?
No, Babs came in to talk to Bev, and he got mad because somebody called him a globe head for the way that he was acting.
Was he purposely acting like a globe head just for back and forth, or what?
A little bit on, he said he proved gravity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Globular head. Good morning, good.
Morning.
We go from Babs to globular head.
What's going on, Elijah?
Just hanging in there, man. Hanging in there.
Okay, well, I got a pun for you. I'll do it later.
Why is he blowing? I'm sorry.
So your horn, I hear outside your house, Nathan.
Oh, what, outside my house?
Who was honking the horn?
Nobody. You couldn't hear that. Me.
I don't know what's going on here. I heard two honking horns.
Well, not from me.
All right. Well, you responded right after I heard it, so I thought you said, "What's going on outside?"
No, I don't think I did. I think you did.
All right. All right. Well, I'm in a different world. Must be in the 4D world.
That's right. We'll get a dose of reality from Neil.
Here we go.
Hey, Neil.
Help me, Neil. Give me some reality.
Hello. I keep forgetting, man. See, work sucks because I lose track of time. I look at my clock, it's 8:45. I'm like, oh, shoot, the show is starting.
So don't worry. All you miss is a couple of horns and the Babs. Oh, what a morning.
Oh, you got what's his face coming back in, right? Vacuum with his nonsense yesterday. And who's this guy trying to do experiments that don't know what experiments is yesterday?
Well, he was relentless on proving he didn't know what it was.
Yeah, but that was beautiful how Nathan set him up for that. I don't know if he did it intentionally, but that was like classic Nathan Oakley.
Yeah, it was intentionally, I'd say.
Yeah, you
But,
even said it made it through to air. So just before you left the call, I'd led him to the point where he's saying it doesn't happen in nature, it happens in maths. And then I heard you in the background go, classic.
Oh, I said that yesterday?
Yeah, you were off mute. I don't know if you were aware, but what you've just voiced, you actually said verbally during that back and forth. So, yeah.
That was fun.
The way I feel a bit sorry for the guy because you can clearly tell that he's undergoing cognitive pain because he comes to fight for drift and how things deviate. And then when you say, okay, Earth's turning underneath stuff, he doesn't like it. He knows that cognitively it doesn't process. Can't take us to any examples that are naturally occurring, but yet he still wants to fight for the argument. And when it's proven to be wrong, he demanded that I justify the globe claim that they have drift, which is the very thing he came to prove.
That was incredible. That whole piece. I'm sure you're going to cut it out and label it properly, but that's a lesson in listening to globetards, running too quick before you do your investigation, talking to a flat earther that's going to school you, and then saying, "Okay, prove my globe for me, because I can't. You just beat me up."
I thought it was good because you get to see where they beg the question and will just insist upon you accepting their begging the question fallacy and just move on with an example, right? That's what he was like, oh, I just want to move on with my example. It's like, no, you've claimed you've got an experiment. Now give us the IVDV, starting with the phenomena. And there isn't one. Nothing's drifting. That's the bottom line here. There's a claim phenomena that we have Coriolis effect. That deviation would be considered phenomena if it happened. And it doesn't. So the simplest part of that argument is, where does this happen? Where's the drift?
At
any stage, go on.
In geometry, that's where the drift is.
Yeah, in geometry, exactly. It happens in the maths. Like, no, we need a naturally occurring phenomenon. We need this to happen in nature. And if they ever take you to anything that they assert has drift, that would be 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth's turning underneath it. That's what causes the drift that they claim we have everywhere all the time. But yet they can't show you a single example of it. Now, let's say, for the sake of argument, that argument went a different way. And he said, here's an example. I'm not going to invent one for him, but let's say he came up with an example. It's like, okay, so you're asserting that this item drifts because Earth turns underneath it. Well, that would shorten flight times. I snuck it in even though he didn't claim it. He didn't actually present anything that exampled natural drift because we don't have it. That's why. But as soon as they do, it's like, okay, so Earth's turning underneath stuff not attached. Well, that would shorten flight times. Drones would drift away 1,000 miles an hour on the equator because Earth's turning underneath them. That doesn't happen. But because it doesn't happen, he can't give me a single natural example, so we didn't even get to that stage, even though I dropped it in at one stage just to make that for the audience's benefit. As soon as he does preemptively say, yeah, this is an example of stuff drifting, it's like, well, that would mean Earth's turning underneath stuff not attached.
Hmm. One of your best paragraphs of talking to him was, "We deal in nature, physical reality, not maths. Go to math forum. That's abstract, not physics. Science is physics. Math is math, not science." And then he goes, "Yeah, but I can show you with calculations."
I nicked that from QE. As soon as he gets up
Oh
to
my
say that
gosh.
it's only abstract, it's only in existence in the maths. I go to a maths forum.
It's so funny, but after all that beautiful, in a sense, directions you're giving him about what he wants to talk about, where he should actually go, he goes, "Yeah, but I could show you in the calculation." The whole point was that's what we've been trying to tell you. You're not listening.
Right.
Well, I mean, you can show anything in the calculations. Look at they got 4D Narnia world in the calculations.
Exactly. You can bend space-time in calculations. Just do it in pseudo-Riemannian four space. Well, what's that? Just a made-up place that doesn't exist. And the maths works. All right. How does that have any bearing on reality? It doesn't have any bearing on reality. Just maths.
It's so simple. I don't know why they can't see through that. I mean, it's so simple.
You know what it is? Because it works out on paper. So they're like, well, it's working on paper.
Oh. So anybody in Discord want to who watched a couple of, was it 2 or 3? I think I did 3 little short presentations on why the sextant cannot work on a globe Earth. Any comments, anybody? I mean, I got so many more things, but at least for this week, I give you about, what, 3 little short bits of it.
They've only been released on the second channel thus far, so they're part of the Uncut and After show. So I'll plug that. If you aren't aware what we're discussing, it's because you're not subscribed to my second channel. So go and subscribe today to Nathan Oakley and you'll know what we're talking about. But I may very well release those over the weekend on the main channel. So that's when you'll get more commenters or opinions on what you've put forward. I thought it was very good. I mean, I've given you my opinion when it happened, so...
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at their own way of how they say the sextant works and then comparing it to reality. And they're saying that it cannot work unless you have parallel lines coming to Earth for it to work on a globe shape. Without parallel lines, it can't work on a globe shape because they're taking the measurement from the center of a sphere, which is the radius value. And first of all, big problem there. There's no one in the center of this presupposed Earth taking any measurements, but they're saying if there was, this is how it would work. But actually, the one thing we all agree on is the guy in the boat on the surface of the Earth taking the measurement of that sun or moon or star. And the tool called the sextant cannot work for celestial navigation if light comes in funny angles, if light comes in divergent. They admit to this. And yet every proof of how light comes in shows it at divergent rays and funny angles. But yet they insist that the light is parallel because you can't get an angle from the center of the Earth to match the angle from the surface of the Earth if it's at funny angles. So from a practical way, this proves what the black swan is saying from a practical way, because here's a tool that they all swear works. The US Navy resurrected it in case of an EMP attack. So everybody's going through training to navigate by the stars, and they're telling you it can't work unless light comes in parallel, and light doesn't come in parallel. So the curved surface of the Earth, it has to come in parallel. But if it's a flat surface, it doesn't matter how it comes. It works.
Indeed.
It's death. I mean, you can't get an angle on the curved surface. You need 2 straight lines. They can make a corner. It's so
The
strong
same
of
applies
evidence.
going back in historic timelines, if you will, to Al-Biruni, the same principles apply, right? Even though he's assuming a curved surface, where's he getting that 90 degrees from? Where's he getting his, his zenith to a 90-degree horizon that doesn't exist? He's just inventing a 90-degree angle to a non-existent place to account for the fact that he's standing on a plane. So he invents a horizon to do so. It's the same principle, though, isn't it? To get the dip
Yeah,
angle.
it is. Yeah, it is.
But this equally applies to Al-Biruni, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, this. I started this when Brian and I and Bev were talking, and Bev was doing his part, and Brian brought out the Cartesian coordinates systems. I told Brian, I'm working on something to back what he's doing with the sextant. So we were all going to try to time a nice presentation and come on your show and help, ask you to help us share it. And so Brian had so much stuff, he just started it. So he started his Cartesian, and then Bev was already in the midst of using horizontal and plumb lines and geometry. And I just kept going researching. So instead of all of us doing it at one time, Bev, Brian, and then now me bringing the sextant. But it's the same thing as what Brian was saying about the tangent planes. It's the way they make that disco ball. It's all the same. I mean, everything is measured from a flat surface and then recalculated to fit the globe model.
Or, more accurately, they presuppose that they're going to be measuring out from a tangent. That would be to say that they've got all the dip angle stuff presupposed in the reference point that they start from. So they draw their zenith and say, I'm pointing at this angle towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, and the datum shows me on this point. And then they measure out a plane, a flat surface, with all flat principles to do so. But they beg the question before they do any measurements, as opposed to after.
Sure. The datum is the key because they're already assuming the Earth is a globe. So they start there. And then, hey, but everything looks flat. So, hey, what the heck? We're stuck on this little flat point on this globe. So we're forced to measure flat. Don't blame us, but it's still a sphere. I mean, come on.
Well, yeah, so they drop a plumb line and say, this is my zenith, but my zenith isn't pointing straight down because it's only from my relative position that I'm on the top of the sphere. Whereas if I looked at it out from space on the same plane as Mars, then I would see that in England, I'm pointing out at what, 45-degree angle or thereabouts, a bit less than that actually, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's pointing out at an angle towards the centre of that plumb line's actually pointing at an angle towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth.
They have everything, and maybe you can put it in better words. They have everything going to the center of the Earth, everything, because in geometry, a circle is a shape, and from the middle, the center, the radius, it's workable to draw a 90 because you can go from the top to the center, from the center all the way to your, say, the equator line of their presupposed Earth, and there's your 90. And then you have an arc in between those two, which is their presupposed sphere. But where the two lines meet, there's a true 90 there. And so that's how they get away with it, by presupposing the center of the Earth for every calculation. But if you go to the surface of the Earth of a presupposed sphere, which is a circle with a circumference, you don't have that 90 because of the arc's surface. So you can't get a measurement. You can't get an angle. So this is their trick. So that they have to presuppose they're on a sphere with a radius to convolute the math. But it doesn't work unless light comes in straight rays or lines. And since light doesn't come, it destroys that trick because that's the only way it would work on a circle if light came parallel. And light doesn't come parallel.
Because the ground is falling away from them, so they can't get that 90 degrees from their zenith, instead of doing that stage, which is right at the beginning, and would require the ground to be actually curving away from you, instead of doing that stage, they refer to the datum. The only bit they do is drop a plumb line, but then presuppose, based on the datum, which way it's pointing towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, and then they measure it all flat.
I knew you could summarize it better than me. Perfectly correct.
Hello.
Hello, Arwin.
Hey, Arwin.
Joe?
Sorry?
Good
I think
show.
he's gonna
I don't
start
want to have you on in the background now. Since you started an hour earlier, I tend to actually have you on, as in playing in the
Right,
background.
right. I heard that. I saw you in the chat.
I'll go in and say hello, just so you know I'm watching. In other words, it'll make sense when I say good show. You'll go, yeah, thank you, or something like that.
All right. Keep that in mind.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video from today onwards, there's a link if you are a UK energy user to get £50 if you switch to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Excuse me. We are joined by 10th Man, I've completely lost my track due to a frog in my throat, Arwin, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Hello, hello.
Morning,
Good
morning.
afternoon.
Hey.
Good morning, good morning. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Nonsense.
You don't see it.
It varies from time to time.
Varies.
Can be
What?
measured.
Hold on, I win every day. No, something that's physical does not vary. If it's physical and geometric, it doesn't have any variation. Rocks don't grow. I'm clicking buttons, hoping that it'll be a nice, smooth, easy one. And Arwin's always here to make sure that I've got to actually address something the panel's got to say. Thank you, Arwin.
Yeah. I
no, it doesn't
immediately
vary.
throw a wrench in the works first thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. Shout out to Jamal24, who says, great show yesterday. Well, thank you very much. Hopefully the same today.
Right. I guess that's what they used to think first. Now they just don't think about it anymore too much.
Nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve, are we?
Well, that's what they say right now. But I bet that in the back of their mind, they're still looking back at NASA telling them, no, that's definitely what you have to say. And then they're just like, okay, we're not going there for a while because there's like mines in between that road. So,
Well,
yeah.
they had a bash, right? They spent 12 months hand-waving the Black Swan. And then, after just not coming and addressing it or hand-waving it in comments and saying it's debunked without giving anything to actually debunk it, they then went on to start reasserting that they could see horizons that are physical from balloons and such like. It's like, hello? You've not actually addressed the fact that your own side's telling us how non-physical this horizon is. But what, you just want to go back to, look at this horizon bending. That's fascinating. It's not physical and geometric anymore, though. It's been debunked.
Right. Well, maybe they just have to call it the alleged physical horizon.
Alleged, it's supposed to be the thing that proves we're on a sphere, Arwin. It's pretty fundamental to their claim of spheredom.
Allegedly, yes.
Not allegedly, factually. They've got calculators that tell you how much of it blocks boats and buildings and stuff in the distance. It's supposed to be the proof of Earth curve, i.e. the proof we're on a sphere.
Allegedly. No, yeah, that's fine.
Not allegedly, but for certain, that's definitely what they think. They definitely, it comes to something when even on the flat Earth side, we have to say, do they still really believe they're on a sphere? Is that really what they're claiming? Yeah, it is, yeah. That's definitely what they're claiming. Unless anybody wants to correct me, am I wrong that 99% of the Western world are under this misapprehension that they're on a sphere and that the horizon's a physical Earth curve that boats go over? Am I wrong about that? Have I woken up in a different Narnia today?
Well, maybe they all woke up and realized that even though they still kind of have the same habits to fall into, that yeah, at some point it's gonna sink in. Like all this defending of this globe, it's not leading anywhere. So they might just give it up. Still be like ballers, still defend their dreams and the things they like to think about, but then their foundation is just like, yeah, that's all kind of like done with, really.
So ballers without a ball.
Yes.
Well,
They still
they
got
would
the
become
dream.
they would become
Yep.
the out. It's weird because you've got a direct comparison that sits in the same paradigm, which is a bit odd, but you'll understand what I mean when I say that Scientology is a similar thing to where heliocentrism could end up. In other words, it's got a small pocket of people that are very, fundamentalist about it and deep believers, but ultimately the rest of the world knows the obvious and observable flat nature. Now, you can use that as a direct comparison because Scientology is based in heliocentrism, as much as people might laugh at it, going, oh, these idiots. Oh, really? Well, their paradigm isn't actually that much detached from heliocentrism in general. It's very much based on heliocentrism, Scientology. And like I say, the fact that you've got a few of those believers, once the world accepts the obvious and observable nature, which is how these things tend to go, eventually the ridicule and the violent opposition towards the obvious and observable will just be declared as obvious and observable by average Joe. They'll go, yeah, well, obviously it was always flat. We always knew that. It was obvious. After telling everybody that you're an idiot and ridiculing it, which is where we are now. But given enough time, you'll end up with a small pocket of people that still believe in heliocentrism, like you do with Scientology, even though they're pretty much the same thing, believe it or not.
I
I
would say
think that the Scientology backstory in the face of heliocentrism is really not that weird when you really think about it.
No, the fact that they've got mathematical certainties in aliens and things out there, and out there being the distances that give them these, longer timelines to have these evolutions, all of the whole paradigm, the whole narrative, the whole thing is based in heliocentrism. It's not a stretch. I mean, it's weird that it's ridiculed. It might be like that's how heliocentrism eventually gets subcategorized off into the nonsense world of only people who are technically Scientologists. It won't be left as a heliocentric paradigm. Maybe it'll get resurfaced 300 years from now, when they switch back again. Like they said in 1984, the stars can be close or far. It's just up to our mathematicians. If we want to change it tomorrow, we will. So when they might change it back again, right? We fight for this great battle of it's obviously flat, what a load of nonsense. And when people observe it as flat and accept it as flat, then a few hundred years later, they just change the paradigm back to sphere. And everyone says, obviously we knew it was a sphere. Look at the horizon. It's blocking stuff.
Right. All they need is just unleashing another moon landing on a completely unsuspecting public.
Yeah.
No, moon's not going to work. They want to go bigger now. It's got to
No, but
be Mars.
that would not be now. Guess what? Because now there is flat Earth going around in their social
they're
media.
planning
But like
something
in
big now,
several generations, they could just start it all over again.
They're
Neil, you're
planning
talking through
something
him.
big.
Hold on, Neil. Just
Mars
wait your
is
turn.
Jupiter somewhere.
We missed half of what Arwin said because you talked through it all, Neil. Go first.
sorry,
Go
Arwin.
first, Neil. You go. No one will interrupt you. Then Arwin can repeat, hopefully, what he just said. I can pick up the sentiment.
Sorry, Arwin, a little delay with my car thing. Anyway, they're planning something big. Jupiter, Mars. They know the moon's not going to cut it no more. They have to do some theatrical thing in one of these other planets.
What you think using
I
another
think
light?
that's all.
I mean, they're doing that anyway.
That sort of thing is all damage control for still trying to maintain the spell that is currently going. What I'm saying is that the spell is not as old as you all think it is. That they like it has been in the making for an extremely long time, has been worked on for over millennia, probably overall, in one way or the other. But the actual unleashing of the spell on the world, making it real, as it were, that's not that long ago. I think it really is. It's probably 20th century. So now it's all out here, right? It's all out there. There's flat Earth talk. There's all kinds of doubts with NASA and all that. But if that all just changes again, kind of forget about it, several generations later, the people will not. They will know in the back of their mind, like, oh yeah, there was this thing about flat Earth globe argument, but they won't even know what that means at that point. And then government can just come out like, yeah, we're going to the moon. We're going to go to the moon and do it all exactly as we always plan to do. And then the people will just be like, whoa, this is incredible. So the Globers were right after all. They'll all fall for it all over again very easily, I think. But it'll take this period to kind of end and round itself out, and our generations to fulfill what we're doing, basically, before they can engage again.
Well, we're not. I don't see it as me having to fulfill anything personally. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like sitting here and debating the subject. It's very close to my heart, and I like making YouTube videos and running live shows and all that good stuff. But I don't feel obliged to fulfill some sort of destiny. I don't have a quota of people to convert, and frankly, I couldn't give a crap if they don't care.
But that is it. That is it. That is the destiny. It is very fulfilling, isn't it? You've always said that doing flat Earth is very fulfilling. There's all this room, all this mystery. It is fulfilling. That is what I meant, not a specific prophecy like destiny or anything that kind of fulfilling, but just doing what you do, letting it all play out naturally. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice being on the winning side. And the fact that I've appreciated and you've appreciated the obvious and observable nature of reality as flat doesn't fuss me if someone else doesn't, is what I'm trying to get across. I mean, someone sent me a video the other day, I can't remember who it was that sent it me to credit them, but it was a typical ball-believing mainstream fundy. But they started out their video before all the little proofsies, which I won't cover because they're just tired old dogs of proofsies. But nevertheless, this woman basically explained that according to the statistics she'd looked at, up to 50% of people either think the world's flat or doubt the globe. And it's like, I'd stop paying attention to this sort of stuff. I don't watch TV and I don't pay attention to mainstream news or the propaganda that people get. And therefore, I don't know, I haven't got a clue and I don't really care. But when it was suddenly presented to me in that manner, it's like, this is a globie talking about how stupid we are with rubbishy globe proofsies, but saying, according to the stats I've looked at, half the people think world's flat. You're like, okay, that's certainly been hinted at in terms of other stats that people had shown me when gamers had asked their audience to give the opinion on the same subject matter, and they came back even more in favour of flat Earth on some occasions. But like you say, hearing those sorts of things, I don't suddenly rejoice. You know, if next man realises what I realise, does that actually benefit me? Not rhetorical. You let me know. How does it benefit me or you, Owen? So next man that comes to your show, for example, we have exactly this on the panel. So father of a stolen child tells you that he's now under the he's lacking the misapprehension that he had in prior years that the Earth was a sphere, and he now realises because of the black swan. How does that benefit you? I mean, it's great for my show, and I can give benefits in that regard. But how does it benefit you, Owen?
Well, it provides an average of more people out there that you might on average bump into, that'll allow you to be able to realize that and talk about it on that level. So it takes away from the isolation.
Okay, I can see that as a definite benefit. No, I get that. If the paradigm overall changes, then you don't go out into society and find that you're being ridiculed just because you say, yeah, the whole globe idea of space and stuff is just nonsense. When it comes up, I'm not going to give an example where it comes up naturally. I'm just going to say, if it came up naturally, the general consensus would have a different worldview and therefore wouldn't necessarily ridicule you. Therefore, it would be easier in society, you know, and maybe the comments would be a bit less brutal. I don't know, various other fringe benefits along the same line. So, yeah, I can see that.
But hold on, that is if like the entire mainstream idea would go to that. I don't think that'll ever happen, really. What I'm saying is that just having more flat people realizing that the Earth may actually be flat and they're all being fooled gives us all an opportunity to grow and then share with others. that
Well-
same process so that you won't be alone. I'm not saying that it will inevitably lead to flat Earth being declassified and being taken on by some kind of mainstream media authority, right? I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think so.
Well, the two aren't the same thing, though. So what you're saying is, I don't think the propaganda, which is definitely on the side of the sphere, will ever change and suddenly the news will declare it's flat. Well, no. But we actually do live in a consensus reality, as much as that might frustrate us when we ask for science and empirical evidence and demonstrations in physical reality. We do still live in a consensus reality. That would be to say that the people around you accept what everyone else thinks is the correct way of being or the way of the world or whatever it is you're talking about. Now, that was made clear to me by Steve McRae when I went on a show with Anthony and Chris Monk. It's like they made it absolutely plain. No, we are living in a consensus reality. If consensus says X, Y, Z, then that's true. Now, as much as that's frustrating, in the same example, if the consensus, that would be the majority of people, don't think we're on a sphere anymore, then that is the consensus reality. It's just as simple as that.
Well, the consensus reality from the other side on the current topic is conspiracy, conspiratards. So they've painted it as a picture of a bunch of Looney Tunes believing in conspiracies. That's the flat Earth paintbrush they put on us at the moment.
Well, again, you're confusing the two things. You're confusing the consensus, the majority of people, because you personally give me examples of where they don't ridicule you when you go out and lay out some of these things. Yeah, you do also have examples where they do, or at least behave defensively towards it. But I'm saying there's a big distinct difference between when you say or they behave, you're talking about the propaganda and how it indoctrinates people. Well, again,
Right.
along a similar vein, right? There's certain statistics in terms of the amount of people who are detaching themselves from mainstream TV. Now, yeah, they're still wrapped up in all the online streaming services, but it's a step in the right direction when you consider the amount of news narratives and propaganda that they've then relinquished as a direct result of merely relinquishing mainstream television. You know, and I realise that will just morph into a different stream of propaganda. It's already halfway there. But nevertheless, there's going to be a certain amount of people that aren't subject to the massive amount of propaganda, and therefore that isn't what you could consider the consensus view. It used to be the case that everyone's totally indoctrinated by what comes through the telly box, and therefore if the telly box says something, that is just, you might as well assume it to be a consensus opinion, because everyone's going to have seen it and therefore adhere to it. But I don't think it's the case now. I don't think it's the case that just because it's said in propaganda terms that this world's a sphere, for example, that everyone accepts that and makes it the consensus reality. Now, go on.
I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing from that point of view. I was going back to the original back and forth you and Arwin had. They, whoever they are, and of course they are everybody who is the consensus as well, is when I talk to people and they just say, wow, I never thought about that. That tells me they haven't been listening to the propaganda. Then when I talk to some people and they say, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. I go, well, where'd you get that word? And why'd you use that? Why do you label it conspiracy theory? So now they have been listening to the propaganda. So I'm just saying the side that wants to keep the consensus as a sphere is labeling us as conspiratards. In fact, a guy came on your show the other day and says, oh, that's just conspiratards. But he's been listening to the propaganda instead of looking at the facts, instead of looking at reality.
Yeah, that was his last retreat, though, after being pummeled about a sky vacuum and claiming there was pictures
Right.
being taken from space. Anyway, should we move on? That was only the first housekeeping question, and nearly 20 minutes into the live show. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
You mean 15-degree drift of the Earth if it was spinning?
15-degree lockstep movement.
And no drift. That's not nothing would drift.
No, everything drift. It just seems like it doesn't.
Not bad. No, not everything should drift. You wouldn't drift if you were standing on the ground. You'd be observing the drift of things not on the ground. That's what Coriolis is, regardless of your assertion that things moving together somehow has a drift. It wouldn't.
No, it's just too slow. You just don't see it.
That's fascinating.
It's too
That's
slow.
not Coriolis, though. So, as much as this is fascinating, Coriolis effect is you observing things drift as you turn underneath them. That's what Coriolis is, and it's claimed the globe has Coriolis effect.
So how much would a drone?
I knew it! He didn't have
drift
anywhere
in
to
an
go. It had
hour
to turn
time?
into a question for me. Ha! Got you, Owen. That's the end of that. Question for me, I see.
I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I have a scattergun next question. Right. So how much would a drone drift in an hour then?
You having me on? 15 degrees.
How much is that?
15 degrees is 15 degrees.
Okay, it's gonna 15 degrees in relation to what?
Relation to its position relative to you spinning underneath it. So you will rotate at a rate of 15 degrees per hour underneath, say, a drone. So the drone would take off the roundabout, and if the roundabout's moving at 15 degrees an hour, then the drone is hovering above it. An hour later, you're 15 degrees further away from it on the rotational path of that roundabout. Likewise, Earth, that's claimed to be turning at 15 degrees an hour, would have the same effect. The drone would take off from the rotating surface of Earth, and then an hour later, you'd be 15 degrees away from it. Now, that could manifest in hundreds of miles. You know, it depends where you are. But ultimately, regardless of where you are, you still have 15 degrees an hour drift that's claimed to turn underneath the drone as it launches into the air because the Earth's claimed to have Coriolis effect. You seeing it drift away at that 15 degrees an hour is Coriolis effect. If it happened, but it doesn't. Nothing's drifting away 1,000 miles an hour on the equator as we turn underneath it. There is no Coriolis effect on Earth.
Isn't that just because all the things sticking out on the Earth and everything just kind of grip the air lower to the ground so that any typical height we would attain, even with a drone, it would just never get caught up in the actual drift because too much stuff is sticking out and grabbing hold of the air lower at the surface?
Well, that's a lovely question. The globe claims they have drift. So while you're asking me about why you wouldn't have drift, well, we wouldn't have drift because there's no drift. You know, there's no need to explain why we don't have it. The claim is we do, and it proves we spin. Watching things drift away from you at 15 degrees an hour is the claim proof that Earth is turning. So the justification that Arwin's now attempting to give me of why we don't see drift is the end of the argument. We should see drift at 15 degrees an hour because Earth's claimed to turn underneath an inertial reference frame. Yeah? We don't because there isn't.
But you're just not going high up enough to actually catch this drift.
No, there's no height involved. If you're on a roundabout and you launch a drone, it doesn't matter if you launch the drone an inch above the roundabout or 100 feet above the roundabout. You will still rotate underneath it as the drone hovers. The height has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it will matter because if you do that drone very close to the roundabout, it's very likely it's going to get caught in the roundabout and then be moved with it.
Caught in the
Like
roundabout.
if there was a box on the roundabout and you would let the drone go inside of the box, it's just going to move and stay in the box.
So no drift
even though
then.
it's spinning on the roundabout.
Okay. If that was the case, you're detailing an example that doesn't have any drift.
Exactly.
Well, you're supposed to have drift on a globe Earth that spins at 15 degrees an hour. So fascinating
Yeah,
though
but
it
the
is to
roundabout
detail
is still
examples.
spinning though.
Yeah. It's great to get. Look, I could spend all day with examples that you're giving me, or even Simon Dan's examples where he shows a man trampolining and not drifting. It's all very fascinating. However, the globe claims that we do have Coriolis effect, and that would be things drifting away. And they even give the rate 15 degrees an hour. That's what we should have, but don't.
Right, but that only works really high up, and Neil deGrasse Tyson's just wrong.
What Neil deGrasse Tyson's assertion that a globe turned underneath a football to cause a field goal to be made.
Yes, that is totally wrong because the football is not high up enough in order to get caught up in the Coriolis deflection.
How about Felix Baumgartner? Was he high up enough?
Hold on, I've just figured out what Darwin's doing. The ball isn't getting caught up in Coriolis effect. Coriolis effect is you observing something, not what the ball does. It's a not actual deflection. So the ball seems to drift because you're turning underneath it. So I don't know why you're detailing the ball and it getting caught up in something because that's nothing to do with Coriolis either.
No, it wouldn't get caught up because everything is moving in lockstep very close to the Earth's surface.
So no drift
Everything
then.
higher up will be deflected, as you say it would.
So no drift.
So no drift then.
Not very close to the Earth's surface. No drift.
All right, they
Unless
claim
you're
this.
in the desert, maybe. Then I
Okay,
have no
that's nice
excuse.
that you can make that claim. However, they claim there is drift on a globe. Now the fact is we don't see it, and you're justifying why we don't see it is irrelevant. We're supposed to see it. There's supposed to be 15 degrees an hour drift, and there is not.
Arwen, can I
There
ask you a
is.
question?
It's just
Arwen,
not on the surface of the Earth.
Arwen, if a young child is outside flying his kite 50 feet above the Earth's surface, is it the wind or is it the Earth moving that's causing the tension on the string with the kite?
It's the air pressure differential.
Not Earth turning underneath then. Okay, fine. Even still. They're supposed to have Coriolis effect. They claim they have Coriolis effect. There is no Coriolis effect. But there would be if Earth was turning. It's not. We're stationary. If we were turning, we would have Coriolis as they claim we do.
But maybe we do. It's just not really close to the Earth's surface. It's getting caught up in the roundabout.
I'm going to have to do it to you, I mean.
Can I have a citation that says the globe claims Coriolis?
Yeah, I don't need to cite that Globe claims Coriolis chocolate. That's an affirmative right there. You don't need me to cite their claim that Earth has Coriolis.
Even if I was trying to explain that same claim in an experiment?
Even if you were actually claiming it and had it debunked, yeah, I still wouldn't need to then have the tables turned with a burden of proof reversal fallacy that meant I had to justify the claim that I just debunked on a side I'm not fighting for. That's right, chocolate.
This is where the term comes in. We wouldn't expect to see and add anything you want on the globe side because they can't prove anything.
Yeah, make a claim about how you'd expect to see a physical Earth curve, have it debunked by a flat earther, and then declare thereafter that you wouldn't expect to see a horizon being physical. Or in this case, declare that you see 15 degrees an hour drift because we have Earth-based Coriolis effect. And then when a flat earther points out that there isn't any Earth-based Coriolis effect, declare that we wouldn't expect to see drift. And justify how we wouldn't expect to see drift. That's what they do. Go on, Ram, save us from this, please.
How about the ISS?
I was just going to say, if the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, that should be a pretty 1,000 mile an hour westerly, wouldn't there?
Yeah, basically.
Constantly?
Well, you'd launch your drone and it would drift away 1,000 miles an hour, which you could perceive as a westerly wind, but it would actually be the drone hovering and you turning underneath it.
Yeah.
But yeah, your drone would drift away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. Not because it's got 1,000 miles an hour capabilities in its little tiny motors, but because it's claimed Earth turns underneath it, so it wouldn't need any energy, it'd just hover. And you go, oh no, it's drifting away at 1,000 miles an hour, bye-bye drone! Does that ever happen? No.
Even if you threw a tennis ball up in the air, it would just start flying away at 1,000 miles an hour.
That's correct. Well, it wouldn't. It would just go straight up and down. But from your vantage point on the ground, if we have Earth-based Coriolis, you'd see it seeming to take a curved path away from you as you turned underneath it. That's what Coriolis is. The ball goes straight up and down because you've inputted a upward motion and then let go. So it goes up and then down. But as you watched it, if Earth was turning, it would drift away from you at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. That doesn't happen. And when we point out that that doesn't happen, hear them cry we wouldn't expect to see drift. The thing they're claiming prove Earth spins.
Or they'll just tell us how we only see it in the geometry or in the apparatus of the experiment. But something that we're supposed to see everywhere, it's funny that we don't see it anywhere.
Yeah, but chocolate,
That's a little crazy.
Chocolate, it works in the geometry. It works in the maths.
Ah, that sounds very familiar, huh? What was it? What was the other thing that was only in the math? Was that the
R.
geometric horizon?
Correct. That's correct. The geometric horizon, and I quote, the geometric horizon only exists in the maths, end quote, the rumpus.
And what a quote it was.
Getting a little familiar there, huh? Hearing it for more arguments again and again. all the claims are only exist in math. Well, math isn't reality, so
But
I don't know.
chocolate,
Rumpus is a flat earther. He just doesn't realize it.
chocolate, we must embrace the fiction in our science.
Embrace the fiction in our science. Yes, very good quote, man.
I think I've just realised.
That makes sense, right?
I think I've realised.
Yeah, embrace the fiction in your science. So make science fiction real.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what the problem is. That's why we have such limited opposition from the globe side. We've made it abundantly clear that we are only interested in the physical and natural world. That's exclusively dealt with physics. And we've told them that we're not interested in dealing with abstract maths. So they've obviously taken this to heart because they don't come anymore. Well, why? Well, because they don't have any physics. They only have maths, and this is not a maths forum. On the flat earth side, we're dealing with physics, physical reality, the nature of our existence. On the globe side, they've only got reifications and abstract maths. So they're not welcome here, and they damn well know it. They're not going to get away with using maths in a physics forum.
You mean we focus on that really is level that George Musser so exquisitely differentiated between the crap he was talking about with Fight the Tight Shirt and the real world. That really is level. That's what we focus on, right?
And
Yeah.
Physics deals with the physical. That would be the really is level. Retro Bill from the Super Chat says, embrace the fiction, hug a baller today. Thank you very much for the Super Chat, Retro Bill.
What a kind thought.
I'm not hugging any
I'm
ballers.
not going to do that, though.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that either. Thank you for the Super Chat, though.
But 90% of the Western world is going to miss a hug.
Well, when I say share your pain, that's a step too far as far as I'm concerned, Retro Bill. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No evidence for the distance to the sun.
It's 3 AU away.
1 AU in their model, but I said it was 3 Nathans away.
I meant Arwinian units.
Oh, that AU. My bad, 3 AU. 3 Arwinians. I see. 3, not 1.
Yeah.
In that case, it's one.
It's 3 apparent distances away.
3
in that
apparent.
case,
Hold on. 3 not actual distances. That's so beautifully specific. I love it.
Right. Well, it's extra dimensional thinking. I'm applying the mathematical dimensional thinking to actual reality. So if the sun is just an apparent phenomena, an appearance, and there's all these lack of actuals to it, well, then I would have to systematically approach it as non-actual, applying the systems that we know. So it's going to have an apparent distance away.
well, then it would be 3/10 of 10th man away if it's my channel name.
That's correct. 3/10 of 10th man away is 3 AU, though. I mean, this maths is divisible into each other. You can, what's the word he uses? Boil down, translate. You can translate 10th man maths into Arwinian maths. It's definitely doable.
Right.
How do we get chocolate into it?
Your dietary requirements are your own problem. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
They might, as soon as they figure out what it is. Not what is said that it is, but what it actually is, right? Because there's a lot of things throughout history that have been said about gravity and then accepted through consensus and then disagreed upon. And then other people figured out, no, wait, this is gravity. See, my formula works better. My math works out better. But in all these attempts, people seem to overlook that they are chasing after a thing they're trying to prove and they yet have to basically figure out a phenomenon in their hypothesis. And they don't even know that they're doing it.
Well, wasn't it Newton saying, "Don't ascribe this thing gravity to me"?
You don't have to worry about any of this. None of it's done on the really is level. Didn't you hear what Chocolate just said?
Yeah, I know, but I was just dovetailing on Arwen because he was saying it changes based on how certain people from certain fields look at it. So I just brought up Newton and his Principia, where he says, "Don't ascribe this to me at all." So now they, in this realm that we live in, are saying, "Oh, Newton discovered gravity," but he's saying, "No, don't even ascribe it to me." So
Right. And as a reward, everybody that is looking for gravity references him as being an original figuring out of gravity, and he's just old, right? So instead of, well, doing what he said, and not accepting him as a founder of gravity, everybody does, and then looks down upon him for being old-fashioned and outdated, as they are trying to conjure forth the gravity that Newton never claimed. It's kind
yeah,
of
but you can't call a dead witness, right?
Yeah, they do frequently. Absolutely. They divine what he would have done. He would have wanted it that way.
pretty sure he specifically wrote down on paper that he did not.
We even
Yes,
gave an
I
analogy
agree.
with
I'll
the...
go with the reality of the statement he wrote versus what they divine.
Remember talking about this with
We're
Brian?
forgetting
And
that people like Rumpus have secret meetings with Cavendish and know that, you know, he came up with G, even though he didn't write it, but he knows that he did it.
Exactly.
You know, Rumpus is great.
Exactly. This got discussed with Brian, and Brian gave the example of the Mona Lisa and saying, well, he would have known how to hold the Sharpie. Because we know.
Well, maybe people just think Cavendish proves gravity because it was one of the first magician's tricks to assume gravity within the formula, what it was doing. Maybe that's why they think it proves it.
I thought it was the density of the Earth, Cavendish.
Now, that's the actual supposed hypothesis. I'm just saying that because Cavendish might have been the first thing that in its formula assumed gravity to be there, that's why everybody believes it proved it. Or am I wrong? Are there
What
other
you're saying is he's the
of
first
these
to beg the
things
question.
that assumed gravity within them
Yeah. You're
before
saying
Cavendish?
you're saying he's got the first assumption of gravity within a concept where he's measuring the density of Earth. So therefore, he's
Yes.
got something that they can punt out as an experiment, in quotes, whilst begging the question of gravity. Now, the fact that they later have to just insert it, even though it's CV boys, they just will, and they'll say, "Yeah, he would have done it. He would have wanted it that way." When it's Newton, or Cavendish already knew. He's just measuring it. Well, it's not an experiment then. It's conjured within the test to begin with, but ultimately in the paper, he's begging the question of gravity. And you're saying, well, it's just having an apparatus to be able to enable them to beg the question.
Wasn't there a third member of this Cavendish CV Boys group?
Reverend John Michel.
What was his part?
He and Cavendish came up with the apparatus, did they not?
Yeah, John Michel supposedly built the apparatus for him.
But geez, CV boys.
Yeah, so where's Newton's name?
Newton doesn't even come into it. We've covered this, right? He doesn't even come into it. What they call Newtonian gravity is Reverend John Michel, CV Boys, or Charles Vernon Boys, and Cavendish. That's what is commonly referred to as Newtonian gravity.
Well, that's very nice of them to borrow a famous person's name and attach their nonsense to him and gain some kind of pedestal over everybody.
Yeah.
Especially considering he didn't want to be associated with it.
Worst thing you can do. Don't, for the love of God, don't associate this nonsense of gravity to me. I think we'll call it Newtonian. They're just bastards, aren't they?
Yeah.
To the Newtonian gravity versus Einsteinian gravity argument, the ballers I was speaking to the other day were saying that they're both accurate, and that it's just a matter of what type of measurements and what type of accuracy you want. That they're both valid and that they both work.
Yeah, it's just simply not true, though. One asserts that mass is attracting mass. The other can't even calculate that because it can only cope with one mass at a time. So how are you going to account for two of them attracting one another? Well, you can't. So how can you possibly assert that both work when you literally cannot do one with the other because they're in completely different geometries? They don't work. They're not interchangeable. They're completely different things. One is a force. The other is literally not a force. Quote, end quote, George Musa. So no, they're not the same.
Well, they got both sides.
Yeah, but like all these guys cared about
force.
was what applications are they useful for, for measuring things and doing things as they do. And, they find some uses in it. And so that's all they care about.
That's lovely.
Yeah, it's crazy.
If one's a force and one's not a force, that's a classic violation of the law of non-contradiction. So how can they work if they hold both positions?
They don't. One is a force that doesn't actually occur in nature. Yeah, you can violate that with a helium balloon. What'd you say? Down at 9.8 meters per second? No. Watch this go up. Absolutely violating this complete nonsense claim of a law of gravity. No, there isn't. So what do they do to solve that little problem? Well, they push it into a world that doesn't even exist. They push it into the pseudo world of bending space-time. A world that you can't experience and that does not exist. That only exists in the maths.
Great escape.
And then somebody like Rumpus will come by and tell us, yeah, we can only account for things like, I don't know, the orbit of Mercury in a 4D world. No clue as to how the hell to get there, so we can calculate whatever the hell he's talking about. But yeah, that's where we calculate the orbit of Mercury. But we can't account for that in the 3D world that we actually live in, so I guess we just got to keep working on that. Thanks, Rumpus.
Hey, Paul.
Hello. Are things moving in our reality or are they standing still? I was wondering.
Depends what you're talking about. Generally, things can move in our reality, yes.
But didn't they say in the 4D world nothing can be moving around to calculate anything?
Relative to a single position, I suppose you're right, yeah.
Where that world be at?
For the 4D world, yes.
How do I find that world?
Yeah. How do you exist in that world?
We don't. Didn't I just cover that? We don't live in a 4D pseudo world.
Cool.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
iTunes.
Why does iTunes and email keep coming up every time I ask this question?
4D world.
Because I'm becking the question.
Backing, of course. Tough man.
Back to the problem we identified earlier, right? How are you going to come up with a viable hypothesis of any description if you're working in a maths world that doesn't exist? You're not. Hence the absence of any response whatsoever from the globe side in this respect. They don't have any science.
Maybe Adam could help us since it's a math question.
Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Help you with what? I literally just arrived.
It's not a math question. It's a hypotheses question. Any viable ones from science that they claim they have?
Are we on astrophysics? Astrophysics here.
Yeah.
I mean, they could, but it would require them to be manipulating the things that they can't reach. But if they could get there, then it's not like the whole concept has no chance of ever having science. It's just the way they approach it and the assumptions they make mean they could never going to do it with the limitations they have now. That's been so generous.
It is being generous, but you're absolutely right. If you take a phenomena of some light changing in some way, that's definitely a dependent variable, right? That's a phenomena.
Yeah.
Well, they've got tons of those. In fact, they're stacked to the gills with observable phenomena. Or why can't they start the process by saying this observed phenomena was caused by this? And then that's the problem, right? When they get to their, well, we'll vary it because normally their cause of it is something just so it's normally in imagination land what's caused it, right? Gravity being one of them.
It's funny you say that, right? Because it's true. They got dependent variables out the wazoo. They got natural phenomenon all day. But whenever they try to claim something that maybe they can manipulate to have cause in an experiment, it's usually something we don't see. Something conjured up
But what
that
if
we
they're
just
trying to
might see
answer
in
a
the
what is
apparatus?
question?
Well, that's not science.
That's correct. What is questions often get identified incorrectly as science as opposed to actual science, which deals with cause and effect.
They do it in the math, chocolate. That's how they do it.
It's unfortunate that math isn't science. So, yeah.
And that's what they've got to recognise. I mean, I know we've covered this, like, they don't have any science and we ask them for science, etc., etc. But up until now, has it been identified that that is the crux of the problem here? That the heliocentric world is based in a mathematical reification, and the way it falls apart is by simply looking at the real world. That's really what this boils down to. Abstract world, that's heliocentrism based on maths, or real world, that's flat, stationary.
I heard something the other day about it's kind of like the way these guys are thinking, and it was talking about somebody wanting us to provide a model, blah blah blah, but they're justifying their models that it's true because, and it has to be true, the model, because if you put a question to the model, a prediction question, and it gives you the right answer, or the answer matches up with reality, it means the model is correct. Which is so many big leaps of nonsense. Do you know what I mean? Just because you've got the right answer doesn't mean it's explained correctly, even whether the maths is correct or anything. But I found that quite an interesting concept that there was a baller that made that actually as a positive statement, that if we have a model and we ask it to predict something and the prediction comes back correct, that proves that the model represents reality, and that is full of so many holes. It's a Swiss cheese.
Well, it's the standard fare, actually. It's the begging the question, affirming the consequent form of logical fallacy. So if Earth is a sphere, then my model will predict physical Earth curve edge horizons. My model predicts physical Earth curve edge horizons, therefore the Earth's a sphere. So if P, you're begging the question, starting statement, is if Earth a sphere, then Q, model, that's not Earth a sphere, that's a model of a sphere. Model will make prediction. In this case, an assumption of an Earth curve edge at the horizon. And what do you know? It predicts the Earth curve edges the horizon. Therefore, my model is Earth. If P, then Q. P, Earth a sphere. Q, my model. Q, my model. Therefore, P, my Earth is a sphere. Affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy with a begging the question thrown in for good measure.
It sounds a bit like Dr. Becky science, doesn't it? I think if he was to put that in an email, that's her next PhD done.
Send it off, and then if technology, then people clever, therefore Earth a sphere.
There's the junk mail too, so there's a drawback.
Indeed. Did we have distance to the sun already? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Yeah, you said that one already.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
I was in the car when you asked that question, and I have to say, I've noticed that both Nathan's and Arwinian units are, well, they're equivalent to the same amount of arbitrary distance. By the sound of things, it's both 3 Nathans and 3 AUs to the sun.
Yeah, and technically,
A bit like Celsius and centigrade, you two, then.
Don't
it's
forget
also
3/10.
I was going to say it's 3/10 of a unit also. So technically all 3 of them are the same thing. I suppose you're right. I mean, that kind of correlation doesn't come easy now, does it? I mean, I'm pretty sure that this correlation affirms precisely what we've made up. Does it not?
It works. It works in the math, Nathan. Come on.
It doesn't just work in one set of maths. I mean, we've just got the mother of all correlations here. It's not only Nathan units, not only Arwinian units, but if it's 3/10 of a 10th man, then these are pretty much the same. Therefore, this is definitely a correlation. And therefore, I think we can declare this correlation as proof.
Fact.
This validates.
And
I think we got a consensus here.
yes,
I agree.
and if it's 3/10 of a 10th man, we're out on a limb.
Oh.
Indeed. Lots of correlative maths equals proof, does it not? It does if you're a sphere-believing fundy and you've got a load of mathematics that beg the question. Confirm the consequent. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius? Go on, Rams.
I was just going to say, I think they're so impressed by their own maths and the structures they build with it that they just don't want it taken away from them. That's where they get their sense of intelligence and self-worth.
Yeah, because people like us, we go outside, we look at the moon, and we're like, wow, that's beautiful, right? These guys, they're looking at a giant blackboard filled with equations, and they look at that the same way, like, oh my God, it's beautiful, the equations, look at the numbers. It's ridiculous. Imagine that being your reality. Sad state of affairs.
Yeah, makes them feel smart. And in the I've heard actually that there's actually a lot of ego and a lot of competition amongst them.
What, to know the most just so stories?
But to be fair, it
What's
is
crazy is they're
To make up
okay
the
with not having-
most fantastic and
I'm sorry.
amazing mathematical models.
I
Well,
see.
it is kind of smart. It's just not very wise. You know,
What I
they're
find
smart
crazy
to
is
figure
though,
out to play around, but they don't have the wisdom to realize that it's just a mechanical tool. It doesn't actually prove
Yeah,
anything.
it's
That's
true,
the part
yeah.
that they overlook. That's where their wisdom fails them.
but it's almost like the intelligence of somebody else that impresses them, right? Because some of them will say, well, I don't care. I don't need to know how to do that equation. I don't need to know how to figure out the curve of the earth. Somebody smarter than me has already done it. Therefore, I'm free to go. I'm sure my days, I'm good to go to the beach because I don't have to figure anything out. Somebody else did it for me. I can't stand when people tell me that shit. Somebody else figured out it's a goal. I don't have to think. What do I
Smarter
have to think
people
for?
than you have figured it out already, Chocolate. Yeah.
I know, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they're
don't
better
know,
at math than you. They're better at math than you, so they're better than you. They know it more because they know more math. And math is where the proof is at to them.
Oh, shit. Oh, if that's your really is level on a blackboard, then sad for you.
Well, Chocolate, the shore truth is at the beach, not at the blackboard.
Are you sure?
I am sure.
Terrible. Last but by no means least, before we move on to BMLS B69's latest video, any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
With 2 containers.
3. You're always standing in one. So there's always going to be one container. And whenever you're going to demonstrate, it would be good to actually show some kind of visual so people understand that there is some kind of container involved. But for that, you have to have at least 2 containers. Now, if you want to try to demonstrate what it would be like to not have a container for something, you'll need at least 3 containers, the one you're standing in, and 2 containers to show that there is some kind of interaction between the containers. Otherwise, people will just not see it.
Perfect.
And there wouldn't be people.
I'm going to give a quick plug to this video. I've just stuck a link to this video from BMLSB69 in the chat. So go and click on it, go and subscribe to him, give him a thumbs up. This video is about parallax, and what he's demonstrating with the on-screen visuals right now is that things in the foreground will move at a quicker rate than things in the background. Things further in the background will move at an even slower rate. Sorry for my text pushing it slightly off screen. Anywho, we don't have any parallax throughout the night with the stars or the moon or anything. They're all moving perfectly in sync with absolutely no demonstrable parallax, completely annihilating the assertion that we have these various different lights in the sky at differing distances, moving through the motion depicted on screen now. This corkscrew spiralling of us moving around the sun as the sun moves around the great attractor. This whole nonsense would have parallax, and there isn't any.
Nathan? Nathan?
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Sure, feel free.
The thing with the parallax is all stars are moving at the seemingly same speed, because not the stars are rotating. Of course, the stars are also moving, but the Earth is rotating at the same speed. That's why all stars move at the same speed, and there's no parallax.
No, parallax would be based on their differing distances, as depicted in this video. You've got something that's close to you moving faster than something that's further away. So if they're at differing distances, there would be parallax, because they're at differing distances. Not all at the same speed. That's anti-parallax, no parallax. But if they're at different distances, they'd move at different speeds throughout the night, and there'd be parallax. There isn't.
It's just the same as with
Nathan, of course.
the Coriolis deflection.
Sorry.
Don't see any.
Yeah, this is the same dude that doesn't seem to think that Earth turns underneath stuff. Yeah, dude. Why do the stars move? Is it because Earth's turning underneath them? Something that you didn't like the phrasing of yesterday.
Because it's not true, but it doesn't matter.
Sorry, why are the stars moving? It's not
moving.
true. Let's get some clarity before we move to the after show. So Earth isn't turning under the stars. You've just literally 3 minutes ago said that it's only because
no,
Earth... Shut up! Shut up!
Coriolis.
Shh! Why are you doing that? Only 3 minutes ago, you declared that the stars move because Earth's turning under them. Now, yesterday, you told me you objected to that phraseology, yet you very specifically told us Earth's turning under these stars. Now, there's no parallax, and if there were differing distances, as is declared in the heliocentric model, there would be, and there isn't. Nevertheless, someone who objected and demanded that I cite your claim that Earth turns underneath stuff has now boldly declared that Earth turns under the stars, right, mate?
Nathan, I was talking about Coriolis. I'm saying not the Earth is rotating beneath the objects. That's not what Coriolis
So
is.
Earth isn't turning
stars,
under the stars.
Earth is rotating.
So Earth isn't
can I
rotating
say,
under stars then?
complete phrase?
Sorry, Earth isn't rotating under stars then?
It is. Oh wait. Oh god. Wait. Okay. Let me do my phrase. So the stars are of course moving, but they are so far away that we can't see this movement like in one night. That's why we can refer to them as standing still. They're not.
No, that would be a nonsense claim that would fly in the face of them being differing distances because they'd have parallax. Simply saying because they're very far we wouldn't have parallax is flying in the face of what parallax actually is. Doesn't change the fact that you're asserting.
Rotating.
Hello, I'm still talking. It doesn't change the fact that you're asserting Earth turns under them to make them look like they're moving. That's Coriolis effect.
The same effect.
Yeah, that's Coriolis effect,
The stars
mate.
are moving, or
Yeah, that's Coriolis effect.
But parallax.
Hello? That's Coriolis effect.
What?
What do you mean, whatever? You spent yesterday objecting and asking me to cite your claim that Earth turns underneath stuff. Yeah? When I pointed out that it doesn't, you demanded that I cite this crap you claim. Now here you are again claiming Earth turns under stars, and it's whatever. No, mate, you think Earth turns underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. Yet when I point out that it doesn't, you tell me you don't like the phraseology, and then come back the next day to tell me how Earth turns under stars. Do you see the problem? That's Coriolis effect, you clown.
No, I'm saying the Earth.
Yes! Not no. Yeah, that is Coriolis effect, you complete clown. How many times have I got to educate these idiots in what they're actually claiming? Yes! Earth turning underneath to cause a not actual deflection in the stars. That's Coriolis effect, you stupid idiot.
Coriolis effect is not Earth rotating beneath something, okay?
No, Earth doesn't rotate underneath anything, but that's what Coriolis is. You rotating underneath stuff not attached is Coriolis. It's claimed Earth has that effect, and you seem to be telling me that's not Earth having that effect. Yeah, we don't have that effect, nothing's drifting. We've established
not
that.
Coriolis. You're talking about something else, but this is definitely not Coriolis.
Is it not? So, one rotating platform as a non-inertial spinning reference frame, turning underneath an inertial reference frame to give you not actual deflection, that's not Coriolis effect.
I think this is a Globiolus believer here.
I think it's a clown that's having to be told what Coriolis effect is while he simultaneously denies the effect that he's here to claim. He's saying Earth turns under the stars, right? That's Earth turning under something. Stars in this example, balls yesterday, but when I point out that's not what's actually occurring, in this example, because we haven't got any parallax, yesterday's example, because you couldn't literally give me a single naturally occurring example of anything drifting ever, yet you simultaneously want to claim Earth's turning underneath stuff, and then deny that it's Coriolis and claim I don't understand it. No, my friend, you do not understand A, what you're claiming, or B, what Coriolis even is. You haven't got a clue what the effect is. You don't know what Earth's supposed to do. You claim it has drift and then claim it's not Earth turning underneath. You claim I should be citing that Earth turns underneath stuff. And then you've come back today to tell me that the Earth's turning under stars.
Look, I can tell you exactly what Coriolis is if you want to.
I don't need you to tell me what Coriolis is, you clown. I had to educate you in the difference between science and maths, what the scientific method entailed, and now I've just detailed what Coriolis effect is, and you think I need you to repeat a different version? I know what Coriolis is.
But can you prove that you're not talking anything? I can prove that I'm saying the right thing.
Can I prove that I'm not talking anything? Yeah, we've descended into total and utter gibberish from a clown that doesn't know what his own claim is. Yesterday, when I pointed out that we don't have anything drifting away naturally on Earth at all, he asked me to cite a claim that says they do, and now he's here telling me Earth turns underneath stars. Exactly what he unreasonably demanded I prove to him is his claim. He's now here claiming it again, and yet what, denying that he claims Earth turns under stars, precisely as he claimed about 5 minutes ago? These people are in so much cognitive dissonance, it's untrue. With that, I'll say if you're watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. I think somebody actually smashed the super chat just before the start of that little discussion, so shout out to James Richard. It seems like somebody is getting a good old-fashioned flack smacking. Indeed they are. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering Stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Argument and thinks he's got to win.
Anybody know what happened with that GameStop? How every day
don't
people
bring that
became
up.
millionaires?
No, not
Yeah, wants to dissect every bit of propaganda out there.
Yeah, everybody else out there is already talking.
So
about
Nathan, I thought you were going to say it's time for a flat earther to educate. Then you ended the show.
That's one of my favorite lines.
Yeah, Nathan, I don't know. Maybe you want to go to Master B. My favorite citation is in there about Coriolis.
Okay.
It's
It's
you know,
on
guys,
screen.
I try to emulate what it is like to be a baller, basically following their same system, But every time it's always a real glober that completely outdoes me in it. And I'm like, what? Really? Really? It's that deep? I can't emulate that. It's too much.
And someone stick this
They
in the
always
live
outdo
stream
me.
chat, as this was given to us by Globe Believers as their citation for Coriolis effect. Feel free, as he demanded it yesterday and seems to simultaneously want to claim Earth turns underneath stuff, only to say he doesn't like Earth being described as turning underneath stuff. Yeah. Chocolate, it's up on screen if you want to take the pleasure of doing this for the chap we were discussing this with earlier.
Yeah, no problem. I only really need the first line, which is the object is not actually moving off its course. It only appears to be doing so because the Earth is turning beneath it.
Yeah, it's claimed Earth
That
turns
is the
beneath stuff.
Coriolis effect, my friend.
Yeah, like when the guy said Earth turned underneath stars earlier. They definitely claim that. That's Coriolis effect. That's what it is. But when we point out it doesn't happen or ask them to show us it happening and they can't, they want to ask us to cite their own claim because it's so unbelievable that they claim Earth turned underneath stuff. Yeah, it's only unbelievable because it doesn't happen. And when we show you it doesn't happen, you make such unreasonable claims as you should be citing that we claim Earth turns underneath stuff. That's what you did yesterday, dude.
He's back for more education.
Maybe he's about to debunk that claim. Go ahead, guy. Have fun.
Nathan, first of all, yesterday I was talking about the deviation of falling objects. This isn't the exact same as the Coriolis,
Yesterday you
but
wasted our
it
time.
also occurs in nature.
Oh, what?
This deviation
What deviation?
Because
yeah, we got here yesterday. What deviation of objects in nature?
Yeah, good.
I asked you about 27 times and you didn't give me one. What's deviating in nature?
Falling objects.
Like what?
You can take every object. Apple.
No, let's not do this 27 times. Name the object you are specifically referring to that is falling in nature and we observe deviation in it. This was all we got to yesterday. A circular jerk of you non-stop saying it's everything. Yeah? What about if I drop something and then, oh no, it's not enough for me to see it in that. So where do we observe it in nature? Because you're yet to do this. We did it all day yesterday. At the end of us doing this all day yesterday, you asked me to show you a citation that the globe claims that the Earth turns beneath stuff. That's what you demanded from me. Again, I've said this 5 times just today. You've also come here today to tell us how Earth turns under the stars. Coriolis effect, my friend. You don't know what Coriolis is.
So Nathan,
Come on, name
look,
the object.
I have
You said
measurements
apple.
of this
Say it.
deviation, Nathan.
What deviation, dipshit? Are you thick? What in
Falling
nature
bodies. Deviation
are
of falling
you
objects.
observing? Talking through my 30th request won't change that you haven't given us an observed phenomena. Not everything, not in the maths. What in nature deviates? Objects that drop.
Nathan, I told you this so many times. We observe this deviation on rotating spheres, on rotating globes, in geometry.
That's nice. That's nice. Yes, I know. We can observe Coriolis effect. That's right. We can induce Coriolis effect. That's fascinating. Now tell me where we observe it in nature.
I will show you documentation of this occurring in...
Sorry, you think a document is me going out and looking at something occurring? You stupid clown.
Hold on, Nathan.
Nathan,
Why don't
are
you
just
name
saying
it
you
before you
reject
present
my
the
evidence,
documentation?
like my measurements and everything?
Of what? What in nature is deviating
Of
at
this
15?
deviation.
Why do you think it's necessary to talk through me every time I request the same thing that you don't give me? Do you think it's going to stop the request coming over and over again by talking through it? Do you think talking through me saying, I'd like you to tell us where we see objects falling with a deviation in nature? That's not on a sphere I create or mathematically describe. No. Where in nature, where in physical reality does this happen that I can observe it? Now, the answer is it doesn't happen in physical reality. It doesn't happen in nature. And all you can do is manufacture an example. That would be you making it happen. A man making it happen. That's man-made. So no natural deviation because you're not giving me one. Now, you won't accept that you don't have one, but you simultaneously accept that it happens everywhere always. Those two things are in direct contradiction. So until you can show me where it happens naturally, not in maths, in reality where we live, then you've got nothing other than an assertion that what, the stars are rotating because we're actually turning underneath them, a term that you need me to cite when it's your own bloody claim.
Nathan, we observed this deviation, for example, in Bologna, in this tower. I can show you a picture of it.
A tower?
This deviation was
a
measured
tower?
there.
A tower? Is a tower something falling?
In this tower, if an object falls down, there will be
If an object falls, do objects generally fall in a tower that's man-made, naturally in nature? This doesn't sound very natural. It sounds like a man-made device that you've created. Are you going to also be the thing that drops something off it? You're going to very much be the man interfering with
Nathan,
this?
are you telling... Nathan, why can't I use man-made
Let's use an
devices to
apple.
prove something
An
in
apple
science?
doesn't deviate when it
Right,
falls.
do you not know what the word natural means?
Of course it deviates.
Do you not know what natural means?
This deviation
English
is
not your
small.
first language, I appreciate that. Do you not understand what natural means?
I know what natural means.
Really, what
But
does
tell me,
synthetic
where-
mean? Hello? What does synthetic mean?
Synthetic, not real, not natural.
No, it means made by man.
Isn't that what I said?
So not natural.
Nathan, my problem is right now...
Your problem is that when I absolutely pummel you, there's a short pause and then you start asking me something. So we understand that there's a distinct difference between something a man's made, that would be synthetic, and according to you, that's not natural. Correct?
Yeah, correct, but...
Yes, so now you can get over the taste of my balls and tell me where we observe things falling in nature and naturally deviating. Don't give me a synthetic example, because that's, what were the words you just used? Not natural. Right, dickhead? Yes, so let's not worry about your man-made, not natural, synthetic nonsense, and just tell me where it happens in nature. What's that, the
Show me
34th time I've asked you? Maybe interrupt the 34th rendition, because maybe interrupting it and starting your sentence before I finished my 34th rendition of a request for a natural phenomenon that doesn't happen, because it doesn't, mate. We don't see anything drifting in nature. And if we did see things drifting in nature because Earth was turning beneath them, something I've cited for you as requested, your own bloody claim that you need citing back after it's debunked. Yeah? If it was, then flight times would be reduced because Earth would be turning underneath aeroplanes. And that doesn't happen either. There's no natural drift.
That's
Nothing's
not
drifting.
how it works. You don't understand this.
Oh, don't I?
Please.
Time for an I don't understand. I absolutely understand, and I've had to educate your dumbass the last 3 days in a row.
Then tell me what my point is.
Chocolate caught something this guy said. He's been trying to get it in.
Yeah, chocolate.
No, I just want to try to get this guy to understand. I mean, he's been, since yesterday, we've been trying to get him to tell us where we see this apparent deviation in nature, right? And numerous times he said, oh, but we see it on rotating spheres. We see it on rotating spheres. Dude, maybe your problem is you're not understanding. We don't see it in nature because Earth isn't a rotating sphere.
My question is now,
Oh.
so if we would see this deviation occurring somewhere,
If
Yeah, we don't, though.
You see
That's
the
the problem. We
problem?
don't. Why are you
Right
now
back
begging
to
the question
if.
that we see it? Do you not understand that you now begging the question that if we did see it is simply you assuming that you see it? You're not telling us where we see it. You're not showing us it occurring. It doesn't occur. But now you're just going to be so rude as to beg the question. Well, if we see it, that's called begging the question, clown.
Nathan, my hypothesis, if this deviation...
Don't insult us with a hypothesis. A hypothesis has a dependent variable. We got here yesterday. You said hypothesis, I said dependent variable. That's a naturally occurring phenomenon. We're at the same place. You haven't got one, and now you're begging the question, if we see this deviation, is your assumption that we see it? but you're not demonstrating where it's observed in nature. So don't insult us with a hypothesis. We first need a dependent variable that's a natural phenomena, not a synthetic phenomena, not a man-made phenomena, not a phenomena that occurs on sphere models, not a phenomena that occurs in maths. Something occurring in nature. And we don't have drift in nature. Earth is not turning.
But I have measured this deviation.
And what was it that you observed in nature to measure it in?
Nathan, look.
A Cy and a Nathan? Yeah, that's the taste of my balls. Yeah? You don't have a naturally occurring phenomena. You say you've measured it, I say, what in nature did you measure? You sigh and then say my name.
I'm saying we measure deviation of falling bodies if we let something drop from...
If we let something drop, that sounds very much like you intervening, my friend. So if we ignore your intervention, this synthetic little contraption that you're going to develop to assert your begging the question fallacy, we just need to see this happening in nature for it to be a natural phenomena. So can we not introduce something synthetic, please? Didn't we cover this only 3 minutes ago? Cognitive pain much? Not natural. Your words. Not natural.
But what if I'm dropping a wooden ball?
Then that's not natural. Your own words, dipshit.
Sure.
Hello, Thicko. I asked you about whether or not that was natural, synthetic. Do you remember? Are you thick? Have you got a short memory? We covered this 3, 4, 5 minutes ago.
I will use an apple.
Not, a naturally deviating apple. Excellent. Who here observes apples deviating at 15 degrees an hour as Earth turns underneath them? Hands up.
Just one apple picking,
Not
not
50.
me. I do.
You observe
You're
apples.
prompting me right
No,
now.
it's all straight down. I went apple.
I'm not saying that
I saw
it's
straight
rotating
down.
15 degrees per hour.
That's the
My
claim that you have as a
claim
globe
is
that
that-
spins, though. You're not saying Earth turns at 15 degrees an hour. Welcome to stationary Earth.
No.
What do you mean no? Quote, I'm not claiming 15 degrees an hour. Welcome to stationary Earth.
Nathan, my claim is that we see this deviation because of something else. Not,
What, 15 degrees an hour deviation?
not 15 degrees per hour deviation.
So not the 15 degrees an hour deviation that the globe claims. You're claiming a different deviation. How many degrees an hour deviation is your claim of deviation if it's not 15 degrees an hour as per the globe claim that you seem to think I need to cite, even though it's what you're claiming and now simultaneously denying? So you're both claiming 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath, and you're not claiming Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour. Cognitive pain much?
Yeah,
Nathan,
that
what
sounds
I'm
about
saying is this deviation occurs because at different altitudes...
Sorry, this 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath that you're not claiming happens.
But the object is moving faster.
Sorry, this 15 degrees an hour deviation that you're not claiming, that's the deviation that happens, is it?
But not because Earth is turning underneath it. It's
So
happening
you're
because
not
this
claiming
object is
Earth turns
fast.
underneath it. So welcome to stationary Earth, because the globe claims Earth does turn underneath at 15 degrees an hour, but that's not what you're claiming. Welcome to stationary Earth. You're not
But this
claiming
object-
Earth
look,
turns underneath at 15
this
degrees an hour.
object-
And when I give clarity to the words he's using, he continually interrupts me. Because me repeating back to him what he's just said, that would be, he's not claiming 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath, precisely what he's claimed to prove Earth spins. He'll then simultaneously tell me that he's got deviation at 15 degrees an hour, the thing he's not claiming. Cognitive pain, you've got two different positions at the same time, my
You're
friend.
strawmanning me.
And you're interrupting me continually while I summarise your cognitive pain and your contradictory position. You continually interrupt me.
But you're claiming
Can I
something
point
that
something
I
else
didn't
on there?
even say. You're twisting my words.
I don't give a crap. Earth claims to have 15 degrees an hour deviation as it turns underneath stuff not attached. That's called Coriolis effect, something that you are indeed claiming, and simultaneously denying that you are claiming. Two positions Who's making that noise? G+, please, can you pop yourself on mute if you're not talking? You're holding two positions at the same time, my friend. Two positions. You're saying, I'm not claiming 15 degrees an hour as Earth turns underneath, but things drift at 15 degrees an hour because Earth turns underneath. That's Coriolis effect. You're holding both positions, my friend.
But I'm not claiming. Look, I'm claiming that object is also moving at 15 degrees per hour.
Oh, so you are claiming objects drift at 15 degrees an hour. Only last sentence you said that you weren't claiming that, though, my friend.
You were twisting my words.
Oh, it's me twisting the fact that we don't have 15 degrees an hour drift, and yet the globe needs to claim that we do, but we don't. That's me twisting words. Yeah, no, it's you claiming that we're going to see drift. That's 15 degrees an hour drift that the globe claims prove we spin. And then when I point out we don't have it, you tell me that you're specifically not claiming 15 degrees an hour as Earth turns underneath. You're holding both positions. And then because I can summarize them, you need to interrupt them or tell me that I'm twisting your words. No, you're just holding two positions simultaneously. One position. Earth has 15 degrees an hour turn underneath things not attached to cause drift. Position 2. Earth does not have 15 degrees an hour drift. Those are both simultaneously being held in contradiction by you. Summarised accurately and succinctly by me, who definitely does understand what's going on here.
Nathan, if you don't understand my position, I will tell you again my whole position, okay?
Which one? Is it that you're not claiming 15 degrees an hour, or that when you drop objects, there's a 15 degrees an hour drift?
No,
which one?
I will tell you.
There's two.
I will tell you. So, my position is that the Earth is rotating at 15 degrees per hour. If you go on a tower and have an object in your hand, this object is also rotating at 15 degrees per hour. But because you changed a variable, you changed the height, and with the height, the tangential speed of you also changed, because the radius you're standing on has also increased, and that's why
those are two different things.
Moving at has
Sorry, those are two
changed.
different things.
And
Tangential
if you
speed,
let this object fall
two
down,
different things. Hello? I'm correcting you. You seem to be transitioning from angular speed to tangential speed. Why would you do that?
look, I'm saying that.
Yet you're juxtaposing two different things. Angular and tangential speed are different. I've asked you why you've done it, and I've got a sigh.
Nathan, I'm saying both are rotating at 15 degrees per hour. It's true. Both have a certain speed. I can do this with speed.
Chant for me, chant for me. They're both rotating, chant for me.
One object is moving at 1,000 miles per hour. Then you go up, and then this object is moving at 1,001 miles per hour. So if you let that object fall down, if you let it drop, this object will continue moving at 1,001 miles per hour. And this is why this deviation will occur, because the ground is only rotating 1,000 miles per hour. So this object is faster than the ground beneath it.
And this is observed where in nature? Where is this observed?
I showed you a document of it.
Sorry, documents?
Like where someone measured it.
Do you think documents are something that are grown in nature that I go out and observe as a phenomenon, something occurring is a document, is it?
Nathan, it's a document about an experiment which is repeatable.
Oh, an experiment. Excellent.
falsifiable.
Excellent. Experiments have dependent variables. That would be naturally occurring phenomena. What was it in this experiment?
And we're back at the beginning.
DV for this experiment, please.
This dependent variable is the deviation of falling bodies on rotating spheres.
And where do we observe that in nature? So you've already asserted this about 20 times. Yeah, if you've got a rotating sphere and you're observing it with a camera attached to the rotating sphere, you can see deviation. That's fascinating. And does that happen in nature?
So, Nathan, my point is,
So does that happen in nature? Do we have a dependent variable? What's that, 37 times?
It's happening.
Where's it happening in nature?
I've shown you the measurements of...
Oh, sorry, you've shown me measurements of something that's occurring in nature for the experiment. Measurements are maths. Clearly, arse-whipping yesterday when we disciplined you in regards to your lack of comprehension regards the difference between maths and science hasn't sunk in. DV, that would be a natural phenomena, not synthetic, not mathematics, occurring in nature.
Give me 1 second.
Seem to be having a short pause then? If you claimed an experiment, you'd think you'd know the dependent variable. Oh, my bad. It's only about the 30th time I've pointed out that nothing's drifting in nature. Hello? Man who
Keep
claimed we
looking
have
up
experimental data. Can I have the dependent variable, please? 38th time.
He's Googling it.
Deviation
Give
of
him a
falling
minute.
objects. We observe this. We know that it's happening in geometry. So I'm saying if
In geometry, we observe it. No, that's maths, you stupid clown. We don't observe things in geometry. That's abstract. We observe things in nature. Stupid boy. How many times have I got to tell you? We're not observing this in geometry. I want to know where it occurs naturally, as a natural phenomena. A phenomena that occurs in nature. Something happening in nature. Where do we observe this drift in nature? Not in your maths. Not in an abstract world. Not in a synthetic world that you create. Where in nature? 39 times I've asked you that same question. It doesn't happen in nature, mate. We've told you.
I've shown you a picture of a tower. There,
A tower? Oh, right. Oh, these naturally occurring towers that men build and then throw things off of?
Did King Kong
No, in
drift?
this tower, an object fell down, and this object
It fell down from
it was
fell down from this object.
repeated,
Fell
and
down from
measured.
this man-made tower, right? So somebody watched this happen in nature, did they? A man-made tower collapsing.
See, now I've seen things fall off in Chicago. I've seen things fall off the buildings and they deviate. But they do call it the Windy City, so I don't know.
Could I put him right on his tower claim, Nathan?
So here, wait, I'm gonna read something out.
I just want a dependent
Where
variable.
is it?
Just need a dependent variable. The phenomena that's observed in nature. That's the start of the scientific method. You said you've got an experiment. That's the end of the method. First, phenomena. Then hypothesis. Then experiment. That's what we need in that order. So we're not moving on to experiment. We're not getting any explanation from you. We're not listening to you beg the question about how things drift when you drop them from towers and calculate differentials based on an assumption that we've got an Earth that's spinning. Because that's not science. That's not observing a natural phenomena. We need to observe a natural phenomena first.
So, I'm going to read something out. The deviation towards the east is small, only about
What
1/5.
deviation? What deviation? What deviation? Where's it
1.5
observed in
inches.
nature? What deviation? Why are we starting our statement with an assumption that there's deviation when we're not being shown it happening in nature? Why is that happening? Why is your statement that you're going to read out automatically assuming that there's a deviation occurring when we've asked you 39 times where it occurs in nature and you've not told us yet? But you're going to read out a statement that assumes it?
Nathan,
No,
I
mate.
want to read-
No. We want to know where this deviation the guy started detailing occurs in nature before he starts detailing it.
I'm reading that at the moment. Look, the deviation towards the east is small, only about 1.5 inches for a
What
fall of
deviation?
500.
Where's it observed in nature? So now you're giving us maths for a deviation we're still yet to observe in nature. So now we're detailing something we're not observing in nature as a natural phenomena, and you're giving us the maths for it. We just want to know what's deviating in nature so we can also observe it happening. Maybe we can ponder the cause of something that we're yet to see.
I'm reading that. The question is not a new one. In 1679, Newton proposed to prove the rotation of the Earth by measuring the eastwards deviation of falling balls. Dr. Hooke, who was a secretary of the Royal Society at the time, Newton suggested this method, and who was renowned for his many mechanical contrivances. And then undertook to perform these necessary experiments. On January 14th, 1680, he reported the results to the society, starting at the height at which he dropped the balls. Was 27 feet.
That's incorrect.
Yeah, then the experiments are described.
Hi, Brian.
That's incorrect, Nathan. They tried to tell him that's Galileo. That comes from Galileo, I claim. And it's a calculation. There's no measurements. Pure calculation. They don't take wind. They don't take anything into account. It's pure calculation based on the height of the tower. That's where that comes from, not to do with Newton.
I want to mention here first
you
they did
said we see
calculations.
this
They did
deviation in
calculations for
geometry.
what should happen on a globe.
You didn't just describe geometry.
That was
So
the
which
first
one
part
is
of
it? Do we
this
see it in
scientific
nature or
method,
do we see
like
it in
doing
geometry?
predictions.
It also mentioned an experiment. Does it mention an observed phenomena?
Here in this experiment, right, maybe the first one, I think. Yeah, here, Mr. Henry Worms in 1862 gave a very complete account of the whole subject in his work, The Earth and Its Mechanisms, which you take from from which we take the most facts in this paper. In 1791, Guglielmini, a geometer of Bologna, commenced making experiments in the Tower degli Agnelli, which is 300 feet high. After many unsuccessful trials and various alterations in his apparatus, he gave up working in the daytime because he discovered that the traffic caused the tower to vibrate, and selected nights when the air was calm. The liberation of the balls was effected by burning the threads by which they were suspended, and this was never done until they had entirely ceased to oscillate. As observed by a microscope, the balls fell upon a cake of wax spread upon the ground, and the holes made by them nearly coincided. The greatest distance between the two centers, scarcely amounting to half a line, 1/24 of an inch.
Sorry, we're still asking what the naturally occurring phenomena was, because that's the dependent variable in an experiment. You've described
Nathan,
someone
can
dropping
I
some.
just summarise what I just bloody heard?
Yeah, go ahead.
So if you get some balls, tie them up with a bit of string, burn the string and drop them. If the balls don't land exactly perpendicular from where the string was, assuming there's absolutely no vibration in the string, he claimed that, then if the balls don't land directly underneath, this proves that the Earth's rotating. I mean, seriously, dude, listen to what you're actually citing as proof of rotation. It's so littered with error, isn't it? Even in of itself, and you know, even if I give you the fact that I allow you to start the experiment with, if the Earth is rotating, then we'll observe this, which is, you know, farcical in itself. Yeah, listen to what you're experimenting. It's worse than balls in a shed, isn't it? If we stick it on a bit of string, and then the way we make sure it drops really evenly is by setting fire to the string. You're having a laugh, pal.
This was done so that it falls directly down, that it has no push to the side of the which can affect
Hold on,
falling on this body.
No worries, no worries. Okay, let's say we accept this. So you're saying that the ball drops and doesn't fall directly beneath the position it was dropped from, and it's because Earth moved under the ball as the Earth was in motion, as the ball was in motion. Correct?
The ball was moving away from the Earth.
So Earth is moving underneath.
faster than
My
the
friend, every time I seem to summarize your position, you talk through me. So you're saying that it moves because the Earth moves underneath the ball, correct? To the degree of what, 1/4 of an inch as it moves from the top of the tower to the bottom of the tower. Earth moved underneath it to the tune of 1/4 of an inch, correct?
No, the ball is moving faster than the Earth. It has a faster speed, and that's than the ground beneath it, and that's why this deviation occurs.
That's the first law of thermodynamics violation.
A little bit more speed than the Earth beneath it.
That's the first law of thermodynamics violation.
Wait, you lagged out.
I can add clarity to this, Nathan, if you want.
No. I just need him to explain why it doesn't fall directly below where it was cut from or burnt from. Why does that happen? What's the cause of it moving 1/4 of an inch?
The cause is the different speed at different velocities. For this example, it was like the ball was on the top of the tower, and it was a greater height above Earth. So this ball was a bit faster than the ground below it, because the radius is bigger on the globe, and that's why the speed has to be also bigger if the radius increases.
So as it fell through the air, the Earth moved beneath it.
I wouldn't say it like this. The Earth is still moving at 1,000 miles per hour, but this ball is moving at 1,001 miles per hour. That's what I'm saying.
Then the Earth would be moving underneath at a different rate then.
You could theoretically, it's relative. You could say the Earth is moving
Why
forward.
are you struggling? Why are you struggling to say yes? Why is that? Your claim.
Because it's not directly the Earth is rotating beneath it. I'm claiming that the ball is moving faster than the Earth.
Just for clarity, it's not being caused by Earth rotating underneath it then. Not being caused by that.
It's being caused by the different speeds on different altitudes. That's the cause.
So it's being caused by the Earth rotating underneath at a different speed then.
No, I wouldn't say it like this, honestly. The thing is, at
Okay,
different
okay.
altitudes, it
So
moves.
Earth is not rotating under this ball dropped at a different speed then. It's not rotating at a different speed than the ball that's dropped. You seem to have two
No, my
different
claim was-
positions again. We're at the same stage where you seem to want to hold both positions at the same time.
No, I'm not claiming the Earth is not rotating. I'm claiming the Earth is rotating, but the ball is moving faster than the Earth. So I don't think rotating underneath it is the right word to use. Because the ball, if you let go at ground level, is moving at the same speed as the ground below it. So nothing is rotating beneath anything. And if you let it go at a higher altitude, it will be faster than the Earth. So I still don't think that rotating beneath it is the right word.
So if it's faster,
I'm not claiming that it is.
so if it's faster
But the
than the
ground
speed
is
beneath it,
below.
why am I getting interrupted? If it's faster than the speed beneath it, then they're moving at different speeds. Therefore, it's moving beneath it at a different speed. And why is this so difficult to concede? It's the very claim that you're making. Cognitive dissonance much? Maybe it's that it's not the Earth turning beneath it? Tell us again the opposite position, because it's amusing.
The cause is, of course, the Earth rotating, the general cause. But
Beneath the ball at a different rate.
if you want, you can say it. The Earth is rotating beneath it, but you need to understand how it's.
Okay, excellent. We can say, just
that's
for
what I'm scared
clarity,
of.
we can say, for clarity, as you've just declared, we're going to hold one position only. The Earth's turning beneath it. So, like this reference that we get given from Globeheads, the object is not actually moving off its course. It only appears to be doing so because the Earth is turning beneath it. And you've just said, we can say Earth is turning beneath the ball. We can say that, correct? Just need a yes.
If you understand the right thing, you can theoretically say it like this, but
What, like it's defined and I've just defined it and you've just said it?
happening.
Yeah. We've defined it. It's on screen for an audience, defined as specifically Earth turning beneath it. We've had to pull teeth for 20 minutes because you're reluctant to admit that this claim is Earth turning beneath a ball that's dropped. But we can say that, right? Just need a yes, and then I can move on. Maybe you won't let me, maybe you'll talk through me when I start again and I've got affirmation of the thing you claimed only 60 seconds ago and is on screen defined for the audience. So we can say Earth turns beneath a dropped ball then, correct?
Earth always rotates. So theoretically, yes, but this ball is
Excellent. So if Earth rotates under a ball to cause the ball to deflect at 1/4 of an inch over the space of a couple of seconds, then Earth would also rotate underneath a helicopter or a drone or an aeroplane at that exact rate. So Earth would also be turning underneath aeroplanes if it's turning underneath your ball and the stars.
Nathan.
Yep.
That's exactly what I tried to not get from you. Because what I'm saying is falling objects. This object has to have a change in altitude, okay? Because at its higher altitude, the speed is greater. So the
Why?
higher you go up, the faster is that object, and the greater the deviation will be, okay?
So your assertion is that as an item increases in elevation, it increases its altitude with respect to the ground. That's the first law of thermodynamics violation.
Wait, what? Can you repeat it again?
You're saying that as an item increases in altitude, it increases its velocity with respect to the ground.
As it increases in height, it is still rotating above the same place as the ground, but because the radius increased, the speed also has to increase because the radius, in this formula, the radius increases,
That's what I just
something else
said.
has
Yes,
also
you just say it 5 more times,
this
maybe.
case,
Maybe
it's
just
the
not a
rate-
yes is
the-
sufficient. Yeah. My summary of exactly that. Yeah. The radius increases as you go up in altitude, therefore the velocity increases. Yeah, so therefore, as you raise in altitude, you're saying that your speed with respect to the ground increases. That is a first law of thermodynamics violation.
Elaborate, please. Continue. Why is it exactly in violation of
Because
the first law of thermodynamics?
where's the increased velocity being attained from? If I take off in an aeroplane and increase my altitude, you're saying that because I've got an increased radius on a presupposed sphere Earth, that the velocity would be increased because I'm going higher? Well, no. The ground beneath isn't attached to the plane anymore. So how could it possibly increase its velocity with respect to the ground? It can't. That's a first law of thermodynamics violation. Do you understand?
And that's why it's happened in a tower. And this tower is attached to the ground, but the radius still increases.
Yeah,
And the tower
I understand
is
that.
attached to the ground.
Yeah, I understand that. And we've established that in your example, Earth turns beneath the ball. We can say that. But then Earth would turn...
If you want to say...
Oh, I see. I knew it would be interrupted because it's me annihilating your point. Your point being that Earth turned beneath the ball that was dropped. So therefore, Earth turns beneath an aeroplane. And the same explanation that it's increasing its velocity as it increases the radius value would be a first law of thermodynamics violation in an aeroplane.
You know why this wouldn't happen with an airplane? Because this airplane is holding its altitude. So this deviation of...
As it ascends, as it ascends, in my example, as a plane ascends, clearly death. Maintains its altitude. How the hell did it get there? Didn't it have to ascend? Violating the first law if it's increasing its momentum with respect to the ground. That violates the first law of thermodynamics. Maybe ignore it again. Said it 5 times. Maybe ignore it again. Maybe put it in a scenario where it doesn't have to ascend. Maybe put it in a scenario where the plane doesn't have to ascend. Because we've got a first law of thermodynamics violation on our hands. Yeah, the Earth's not spinning beneath the aeroplane as it's claimed to spin beneath your ball that's dropped. Because if it did, it would shorten flight times. Because when you're travelling west, Earth would be turning continually at a rate of what? 1/4 inch in the space of time for a ball to drop? Well, that's a lot longer if you're in an aeroplane. And we'd notice flight times would be reduced if Earth turned underneath the ball that you exampled and the aeroplane with its first law of thermodynamics violation as it increases its altitude with respect to the reference you've presupposed in form of a radius value you've assumed. Clear enough for you? Maybe tell me I don't understand or interrupt again.
Nathan, that's what exactly I meant with you can misunderstand it if you...
Thing you've put in, son. I've just had a quick read of your Bologna Tower experiment. It's interesting, isn't it? 2 points. The first is the south and the east data, which gets you location and shows you rotation. Those measurements were taken 6 months apart in August 1791, and then 1792, the February of 1792 is when the second measurements to confirm it. And I'll just give you a little quote that even the person that's doing this is admitting he's not a scientist or doing scientist. The persevering philosopher finally dropped a plumb line in August 1791. I think that says it all. This is philosophy, my friend, even by the your text own statement. The persevering philosopher.
Wait, exactly. Which page? Page 4 or?
Page 4, yeah, halfway down. The persevering philosopher finally dropped his plumb line.
Mr. Henry Worms. Tower of Liberty, the liberation of the ball was affected by the burning. Is it after that?
Oh, a deviation of the ball? The thing you were so reluctant to claim? The deviation. Yeah, the deviation. Yeah, the Coriolis effect, the deviation. The thing you were very reluctant to claim. Yeah, the ball deflecting because Earth's claimed to turn underneath it. That would affect flight times. You're yet to address that. So if Earth's turning underneath this ball example, like you've claimed, and it details there in the paper, even though you were very reluctant to admit that that was actually what was being claimed, that would affect flight times. Can you address that for me, please? Because it obviously isn't the case that Earth's turning underneath this ball example, because it would shorten flight times.
Nathan, first of all, you need to understand my point for this.
Oh, so we will go straight to I don't understand. No, I understand that we can say Earth's turning under the ball that you exampled. We can say that. But then Earth would be turning underneath an aeroplane. So I do understand there's no need to ad hom me because I've pulled apart your argument that Earth's turning underneath the ball that you dropped to give us a little bit of deflection. 15 degrees an hour of it's what's claimed. And that would be manifest in a plane. Yet to address that. Maybe tell me I don't understand again, so I can tell you off again.
Nathan, tell me, where exactly is an airplane?
Maybe ask me a question. So we're not seeing this deflection that is exampled in your ball in an aeroplane. Maybe address that rather than asking me something.
We don't see this deflection. And
that's correct, we don't. Even though it's asserted by you to happen in the ball, we don't see this deflection in nature. Yeah, it was worth me asking 39 times to get the admission right at the end. No, we don't see this deflection, do we, my friends? We don't see it.
Because the airplane is...
because of we don't see it. We're supposed to see it. Your example says we do see it, but we don't see it. Your ball example says we do see this deflection, though, dickhead. You've spent a long time detailing this deflection with your reluctance to admit that it's Earth turning underneath the ball to cause it. Yeah, we're supposed to see it. We can say we see it, but we don't see the deflection, do we?
Nathan, first of all, the globe is turning beneath it, and the...
Yeah, chant for me. Chant how it's moving beneath it. That would cause deflection that we'd see in an aeroplane, and we don't.
But this airplane...
Chant
we don't see it because the airplane
chant that it's spinning. Chant for me. Chant that it's spinning. Say it's spinning. It's spinning. It's spinning. Go on, chant for me. Yeah, we'd see it in an aeroplane if Earth turned underneath the ball that you gave as an example. It's described in the paper as deflection. Something you were reluctant to admit, but we've got there in the end. We can say Earth's turning underneath the ball to cause the deflection in your example. That would manifest itself in flight times being reduced. Please, can you actually address that?
Show me where an airplane is falling.
Sorry, upon ascension. We're back to the first law of thermodynamics violation. Second time around, maybe circle jerk this little old rag around this debate again. Sorry, as the plane ascends, it doesn't retain an increasing angular momentum as it ascends and increases the radius value, because that violates the first law of thermodynamics. Do I need to yell it at you? What do I need to do for you to understand that as a plane ascends, number one, it's ascending, it's not maintaining an altitude. It's left the ground and ascending. It's therefore not like climbing up a tower with a ball in your hand, where you assume that it's increasing its angular momentum by going up higher, because you've increased the radius by increasing the tower height. A plane, however, still has to ascend, but would violate the first law of thermodynamics if it increased its velocity as it increased the radius value. That's a first law of thermodynamics violation. How many different ways do you want me to say this, clown?
Nathan, I want to make a few things clear. First of all, this airplane is not fixed to the ground.
Yeah, so therefore it'd have Earth turning underneath it like your ball. Yeah, that's right, it would have drift. And it doesn't. Flight times aren't reduced, therefore it would have, if the ball was drifting, Earth turning underneath. But it doesn't have it. There's no drift in the aeroplane. That's right, there's no drift. Not only is there no drift in the plane, you can't give us any examples of drift in nature. And when you do give us examples where it's claimed Earth turns underneath a ball, we can say that it doesn't manifest in a plane.
Because you can't use the Earth is turning beneath something with...
Oh, can't I? I don't. You do. You claim Earth's turning beneath something. You claimed it turned beneath that ball that was dropped. But now you're telling me I can't claim it. It's your claim.
You can claim...
Tell me again that I can't claim Earth turns underneath stuff when it's the claim you're here to prove. Tell me I can't claim that. Nobody can claim it. It doesn't happen. But you're the one claiming it, telling me I can't. I don't claim
there
Earth
was also
turns
a
underneath
contradiction he just made. Did you notice his other contradiction, Nathan?
Vertically.
Say again, whoever that was. If he'll let
vertically.
You. Probably won't.
Hey, Nathan,
triggered.
what's going on? This is the XO. Yeah, he said that if it's at a certain height or a consistent height, that won't have that effect. Yet he's claiming it happens to objects on the ground attached to the Earth. No normal human being could be that.
It's holding both positions simultaneously.
Oh, God damn it. I never saw anyone twist my
Don't
word.
blaspheme. There's no need to blaspheme. Don't damn God because you hold two positions simultaneously. You think Earth turned beneath a ball that's dropped. to cause a deflection.
This object, if you are in a tower and this tower is fixed.
You don't need the example again. Maybe jabber your way through the example like a stuttering moron. No, mate, I don't need your example again. We got it clear. Yeah, we went through it. We painfully got you to say, yeah, we can say Earth turns beneath your ball example. But that would shorten flight times.
Nathan, I explicitly said that it's very risky to use it because it's misunderstood very, very easy. And you misunderstood it very, very easy.
What's being misunderstood and used very, very easily, or whatever you just jabbered about? The claim that Earth turns underneath stuff. That's what, dangerous. No, it just doesn't happen.
But the Earth is rotating...
Chant it for me, chant. Earth is rotating, Earth is rotating. There's no deflection, though. There's supposed to be. It's supposed to happen underneath a ball. You gave an example of it. But that would shorten flight times. It just isn't happening. But maybe chant some more that it is. Because that's amusing. Chant. Tell us it does rotate again. Chant it.
It's spinning.
Nathan, my claim is... Oh, God damn it. Look, for example, at the poles, the Earth is not moving at the same speed as at the equator. That's because they have different rates.
Right, you don't need to chant your belief that Earth's spinning over and over again. If it was spinning, we'd have Coriolis effect. You detailed an example with a ball dropping of Coriolis deflection. The ball deflecting because Earth turned underneath it. Remember, we can say that. But that would shorten flight times because Earth would be turning beneath them. You're never going to address this?
It wouldn't because...
Oh, it wouldn't? Earth wouldn't be turning underneath stuff. Well, then it wouldn't be turning underneath your ball that you exampled. Why would you give us an example with it turning underneath a ball, then?
But the Earth is not turning beneath it.
Oh, the Earth's not turning beneath the ball. Why would you say that we can say that, then? You specifically said we can say Earth turns beneath the ball, but now you're saying we can't say that? Earth's not turning beneath the ball? So your ball example with Earth turning beneath it's just stupid, then? We can't say that anymore. You were wrong when you said we could.
And he did say earlier the Earth is always rotating underneath the ball.
Oh, sorry.
What about the gases?
I can add some clarity to what he's claiming. That claim he's talking about, Nathan, is not correct. If you want, I'll give clarity to it.
Feel free.
Yeah, the original claim he's talking about there actually comes from Galileo in the 1600s. And what happened was, a couple of decades ago, it was pointed out that what Galileo was saying was that when he dropped the ball from the top of a 300-foot high tower, that the ball deviated by a couple of feet. I think it was to the right. It was pointed out that that didn't happen and that it could go any direction due to weather or wind. And it was also pointed out a couple of decades ago that we don't observe the apparent deviation of airplanes and other hot air balloons and all this in the sky. So these two things were a problem for mainstream pseudoscience, because they can't prove what Galileo said was happening, and they can't prove the observable Coriolis effect that we would see if we were on a rotating body. So what they did is they took the Coriolis effect and they tried to turn it into a convoluted version of the conservation of angular momentum. And then they took this older claim and they put Newton's name to it and a few other people, and they tried to amalgamate the two things together. So that's why now it's only like a quarter of an inch. You know, a ball would only move a quarter of an inch if it's dropped from a certain height, all this kind of rubbish. Stuff that can't be ever validated. So what he's talking about is actually something that only turned up a couple of decades ago. The original claim was from Galileo in the 1600s. It was proven that what he said wasn't true, and it was also proven a couple of decades ago that we don't see this observable Coriolis effect. So what happened is they just took the two things, amalgamated them together, put Newton's name on it and a few other names, said it happened back in the 1700s, and Bob's your uncle. That's all that happened there.
Thank you very much. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. If you'd like to get £50 for smashing the link in the info box to Octopus Energy and changing your energy supplier, then that will also help me out as well. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.